Searching for purpose might be the very thing keeping you from finding it. That's not just some clever saying. It's the core message Viktor Frankl discovered during his darkest moments in Nazi concentration camps. While watching his fellow prisoners, he noticed something fascinating. Those who desperately searched for a reason to live often lost hope faster than those who simply responded to what life demanded of them each day. Frankl wasn't just any observer. As a psychiatrist before his imprisonment, he had spent years helping suicidal patients find reasons to live. But it was in Auschwitz, surrounded by unimaginable suffering, that he saw his theories play out in the most extreme conditions possible. He watched as successful businessmen crumbled when they couldn't pursue their ambitions, while simple workers found strength in thinking about their families or completing basic daily tasks. What makes Frankl's insights so powerful is that they came from the deepest pit of human existence. He lost his pregnant wife, his parents, and nearly everything he owned. His manuscript, containing his life's work, was destroyed. Yet in this complete stripping away of everything, he discovered something that completely changes how we should think about purpose. The prisoners who survived weren't usually the physically strongest or the most determined purpose seekers. Instead, it was often those who maintained small daily routines, like sharing their last piece of bread with someone else, or those who found beauty in a sunset through the barbed wire. This completely flips our modern obsession with finding our purpose on its head. While millions of us attend seminars, read self-help books, and endlessly scroll through inspirational quotes, trying to discover our life's purpose, Frankl's experience suggests we're going about it all wrong. The more desperately we search for purpose, the more it seems to slip through our fingers, like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Life has a cruel irony. The harder we search for meaning, the more meaningless everything can feel. Just look around. We're living in what should be the most fulfilling time in human history. We have endless opportunities, more freedom than ever, and countless books and courses promising to help us find our purpose. Yet rates of existential depression and anxiety are skyrocketing, especially among young people who feel paralyzed by the pressure to find their true calling. This isn't just about career choices or life goals. It's about a deeper crisis. People are quitting jobs, ending relationships, and completely restructuring their lives in pursuit of purpose, only to find themselves more lost than before. Frankl saw this coming. He warned that our modern obsession with finding purpose would create what he called an existential vacuum, a state where people have the means to live but no meaning to live for. Think about this. In the 1940s, Frankl watched as prisoners in concentration camps found purpose in the smallest acts of humanity, sharing a crust of bread, comforting a fellow prisoner, maintaining dignity in the face of brutality. Yet today, people with comfortable lives, good jobs, and loving families often feel completely purposeless. Something's clearly broken in how we think about meaning. This isn't just philosophy. It's affecting real lives. I've seen friends jump from career to career, relationship to relationship, city to city, always chasing that elusive feeling of purpose. Each move promises fulfillment, but the emptiness follows them. Meanwhile, others find deep meaning in simple, consistent actions. The teacher who focuses on helping one struggling student at a time, the nurse who makes each patient feel heard, the parent who shows up every day for their family. Frankl's approach, which he called logotherapy, offers a completely different perspective than today's self-help industry. While modern gurus tell you to search within yourself for purpose, Frankl suggests looking outward. While they say, follow your passion, he says, respond to life's demands. It's a radical shift in thinking that could be exactly what we need in our purpose-obsessed world. Let's look at how Frankl came to these incredible insights. Before the war, he was a successful psychiatrist in Vienna, treating patients with depression and suicidal thoughts. But everything changed when he was taken to Auschwitz. In an instant, he went from being a respected doctor to prisoner number 119-104. His pregnant wife, his parents, and almost all his family were killed. The Nazis even destroyed his life's work, a manuscript he had sewn into his coat lining. But in these horrific conditions, Frankl saw something that would change psychology forever. He noticed that prisoners who tied their survival to specific hopes, like I must survive to see my child again, or I must live to finish my life's work, often broke down when those hopes were shattered. But others, who simply focused on what each moment demanded of them, showed incredible resilience. Let's bring this into today's world. Take Sarah, a friend of mine who spent her 20s finding herself. She quit 3 different careers, moved cities 5 times, and spent thousands on self-help workshops. Each change promised to be the answer, but left her feeling more lost. The breaking point came when she realized she'd spent so much time searching for purpose that she'd missed countless opportunities to create it. Then there's Mike, a high-achieving lawyer who did everything right. Perfect grades, prestigious firm, 6-figure salary. But at 35, he had what he calls his purpose crisis. Despite all his success, he felt empty. He was so focused on achieving his next goal that he never stopped to engage with the meaning already present in his work, helping real people solve real problems. The most striking example is Lisa, a coffee shop owner who never set out to find her purpose. She simply started making coffee and creating a warm space for her community. Without trying, she became a morning ritual for lonely elderly neighbors, a safe haven for struggling students, and a gathering place for local artists. She found meaning not by searching for it, but by responding to what life asked of her each day. These stories perfectly mirror what Frankl saw in the camps. He noticed that prisoners who maintained small daily routines, like keeping themselves clean despite the filth, sharing their last piece of bread, or helping others, were more likely to survive than those who just focused on when they'd be free. He watched as some prisoners, despite starvation and exhaustion, would walk through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. These weren't grand gestures of purpose. They were simple responses to the moment's demands. Frankl himself found meaning in an unexpected way. One day, exhausted and starving, he began thinking about his wife, not knowing she had already been killed. Suddenly, he experienced what he called a crucial insight. Love is the ultimate and highest goal to which man can aspire. In that moment, he understood that even in the most degrading circumstances, life has meaning, and therefore even suffering is meaningful. This brings us to a crucial point. Purpose isn't something you find through endless soul-searching. It emerges when you stop searching and start responding to what life demands of you right now. The real question isn't what is my purpose, but rather, what is life asking of me in this moment? The hunt for purpose has become a cruel paradox. The harder you chase it, the faster it runs away. Think about it. We live in a world where find your passion has become the default advice for everything from career choices to hobbies. But this obsession with finding purpose is exactly what's making us miserable. It's like telling someone who's desperate for love to just focus on finding the perfect partner. It usually leads to a string of disappointing dates and growing frustration. Frankl noticed something that modern self-help gets completely wrong. While today's gurus tell you to focus on your rights, your right to be happy, your right to find fulfilling work, your right to live your best life, Frankl talked about responsibility. He saw that meaning comes from what you give to life, not what you take from it. It's a complete flip of how we think about purpose. Look at how this plays out in the real world. The self-help industry tells you to follow your dreams and never settle. Sounds great, right? But this advice has created a generation of people who feel like failures because their day-to-day life doesn't match some Instagram-worthy vision of purpose. They're so busy looking for their true calling that they miss the meaning right in front of them. Here's what's really messed up. This endless search for purpose actually blocks us from finding it. It's like trying to fall asleep. The more you think about it, the harder it becomes. When you're lying there thinking, I must fall asleep right now, you're actually keeping yourself awake. Purpose works the same way. The more you obsess over finding it, the more it slips away. This connects directly to what existential psychologists have been saying for years. They found that meaning isn't something you find like a lost key. It's something that emerges when you're fully engaged in life. Think about the times you felt most alive and purposeful. I bet it wasn't when you were sitting around thinking about your purpose. It was probably when you were completely absorbed in doing something, helping someone, creating something, or working toward a goal bigger than yourself. The practical implications are huge. Instead of asking, what's my purpose? Try asking, what needs to be done right now? Instead of waiting to find your passion, start being passionate about what's in front of you. Instead of searching for meaning, Create it through your actions and responses to life's demands. Frankl laid out 3 clear paths to meaning, and they're nothing like what most people think. First, there's creating something or doing work that matters. But here's the key. It doesn't have to be world-changing. One of Frankl's patients was a janitor who found deep meaning in making sure each room was spotless for hospital patients. He wasn't curing cancer, but he was making sick people's lives better, one clean room at a time. The second path is through experiences and relationships. But Frankl wasn't talking about collecting Instagram-worthy moments or having tons of friends. He saw meaning in the depth of experiences, not their number. He tells a story about a man who lost his wife and was drowning in grief. Instead of telling him to move on or find someone new, Frankl asked him to consider what would have happened if he had died first. His wife would have suffered this same pain. By living and bearing this grief, the man was sparing his wife from having to experience it. Suddenly, his suffering had meaning. The third path is the toughest to swallow, finding meaning in unavoidable suffering. This isn't about being positive or pretending everything's fine. It's about choosing your attitude when you can't choose your situation. Frankl saw terminal cancer patients transform their final months by focusing on leaving letters for their children or supporting other patients. They couldn't change their fate, but they could choose how to face it. Here's where most people get it wrong. They think these paths are like menu items. Pick one and follow it. But real life is messier. You might find meaning through work one day, relationships the next, and facing challenges the day after. The key is being open to meaning in all its forms, not just the ones that fit your plan. Think about it. Most self-help books tell you to avoid suffering at all costs. But Frankl saw suffering as potentially meaningful if we choose to use it for growth. This doesn't mean seeking out pain, but it means not running from the difficult parts of life where meaning often hides. Let's bring all this together with a truth that might be hard to swallow. You need to stop searching for purpose, not because purpose doesn't exist, but because that's not how you find it. It's like happiness. The more directly you chase it, the more it escapes you. Instead, purpose finds you when you're busy responding to life's demands. Look at the most meaningful moments in your life. They probably didn't come from a self-help book or a meditation retreat. They came from times when you stepped up because something or someone needed you. Maybe it was helping a friend through a crisis, or working late to finish a project your team depended on, or simply being there for your family during a tough time. The bitter truth is that meaning isn't a treasure you uncover after enough soul-searching. It's more like a garden you grow through daily actions. Every time you choose responsibility over comfort, every time you help someone even when you're tired, every time you stick with a challenging task instead of quitting, you're planting seeds of purpose. Frankl saw this in the most extreme circumstances imaginable. Even in concentration camps, he noticed that those who survived weren't the ones with the strongest bodies or the biggest dreams of freedom. They were the ones who found meaning in helping others survive one more day, in maintaining their dignity through small acts of kindness, in choosing their attitude when everything else was taken from them. This might seem depressing at first, the idea that there's no grand moment of discovering your purpose, but it's actually incredibly liberating. It means you don't have to wait to live a meaningful life. You don't need to quit your job, move to a new city, or find your true calling. Purpose is available right now in how you choose to respond to this moment. The real question isn't, what is my purpose? The question is, what is life asking of me right now? And here's the beautiful part. Life is always asking something of you. Sometimes it's big things, like standing up for what's right or supporting someone through grief. Sometimes it's small things, like doing your work well or being patient with a difficult person. But every moment carries an invitation to create meaning through your response. So stop searching, start responding. Your purpose isn't lost. It's waiting in the next person who needs your help, the next challenge that needs facing, the next moment that needs your full presence. The meaning is already there. You just have to stop looking for it and start living it.